So not too long ago, I did a retro review for one of the records from Deftones, and in that review, I talked about how I had just seen them live just a few months ago. I did, and how I was really surprised and confused how it seemed like 70 to 75% of the audience was in their 20s or even younger. And I learned that through TikTok and social media and certain songs being used and going viral, that Deftones has become pretty relevant with the younger generation. I am still perplexed and confused, pleased and surprised by all of this, but I guess it does make sense that out of all the bands from that particular era of rock music, as far as new metal from the late 90s and early 2000s, it's Deftones that is getting the love and adulation across generations because this right here is the 10th album from Deftones. It's called Private Music, and this proves that Deftones are as visceral as they've ever been, and there really is no chance that this band will ever let us down. So, on first listen, I was about halfway through, and for some reason, I had this feeling come over me that producer Nick Raskulinecz had to have something to do with this record. And it turns out that I was correct. I didn't look this up before I even started listening to it, but I was right. This is the third Deftones record that Nick has produced, following Diamond Eyes and Koi no Yakan, which I would say are two personal favorites of mine as far as the Deftones discography. And I honestly don't think that Deftones should work with any other producers besides Nick Raskulinecz. That's a really hard name to say. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But he gets Deftones. He gets exactly how to harness their sound. And the sound of Deftones, to me, I would always say simply it's romantic chaos. Deftones are an incredibly romantic band if you really pay attention to the lyrics and to the sound. Even though it's incredibly chaotic, it's really aggressive, but there's so much beauty behind it. And I feel like Nick does a perfect job of balancing out the giant tidal wave that's coming down on you, that's all consuming, while also making it feel just epic in every single way, like a sweet embrace, even though it's crushing you at the same time. I think Nick Raskulinecz is just an incredible producer, and he really truly understands the love language of Deftones as far as constructing their sound, mixing their sound. It's just pitch perfect to me. Now, after multiple listens of this record, something that I've found interesting is that I've said in the past, first off, I've said before that there is no such thing as a bad Deftones record. It does not exist. I'll say it again. There's no such thing as a bad Deftones record. But I've also said that in my personal opinion, Gore is the last record that I would put on from Deftones, even though it's not a bad album. The ironic thing is, as much as I love this record, there are a lot of soundscapes and a lot of approaches from Gore that I feel like are on this album. But except this time, I feel like they are performed and displayed in a much more highly effective manner. It's like they took Gore and reworked the whole album and actually made it the way it was supposed to be the first time. I think this record is actually quite masterful and my favorite Deftones record in well over a decade, since Koi no Yakan, to be honest with you. You know, it's just truly amazing. I have to be honest with you, and I just want to make something clear. This is no shot at any other band or me trying to kind of give strays to anyone else or to disrespect other artists, but there are a lot of bands who came out around the time as Deftones that are still releasing music to this day. I actually reviewed an album this week from one of those bands, and there's something about Deftones where they're able to maintain who they are because you know what a Deftones song sounds like. You know what a Deftones record sounds like. But for some reason, it never, ever sounds stale. It never feels stale. They always find little ways to surprise you, some new tricks in the bag. And this record to me is typical Deftones, but it's still at the same time a breath of fresh air. It's kind of insane. And Chino sounds amazing. The guitar work sounds amazing. The mixing is perfect. I absolutely Love this record. Again, one of my favorite Deftones records to come out in a really long time. I think that this is absolutely phenomenal. If you're a metalhead, you're going to love it. If you just want something to kind of bring you out of your shell, some aggression that's also going to make you feel kind of, I don't know, soaring through it all, because it's making you feel like you're in flight. This record makes you feel like you're ascending towards something and you're not afraid of the eventual crash that's going to happen. This record is fucking awesome. I love it. 10 sticks of butter. Peace, love, butter.